to race for today and tomorrow in these mountains. They're through 1 kilometre to go now. And Chris Froome's got his own hands full. He's looking for the whereabouts of Fabio Aru, 18 seconds off yellow. Romain Bardet, 23 seconds off. And Rigoberto Urán, 29 seconds off. It's going to be a duo fight on the Galibier coming up.
Well, it is, but what this does, the work by Daryl Impey here, it gives a little bit of rest and a little bit of respite to Team Sky, who can try and muster their forces for the latter part of this climb. Because once we go over the summit of this climb, Telegraph, we drop down into Valois, and then it's all uphill to the summit of the Galibier with 28 kilometres to the finish, which is about 17 miles, and it's very fast going downhill there.
Very, very fast. It doesn't really show it at the end of the race, but we do kick up, slight climb up to the finishing line. But there we are, over the top. Short descent, this Paul, and then we're on the Galibier.
Yeah, you go through the lovely little town of Valois, which in fact is a ski resort, earns its name from the Valley of Gold, because going back to the 11th century, they used to mine gold down in the bottom of this descent.
Well, this is a fine tempo now being put up by Daryl Impey.
Yeah.
Just looking down the peloton here now. There's Lander sitting in 6th place. We never know that man. Is he planning a double cross on his teammate Chris Froome, or is he going to help him when the going gets tough? Looks like Ulissi is having a rough ride there today as well. Teammate of Louis Meintjes.
A bit further up there, you can see on the right-hand side the white jersey. That's the best young rider from Orica Scott, Simon Yates. Just ahead of him, there's one blue and white jersey. That's the Quick Step jersey, and that, of course, is Dan Martin, who isolated but still currently well present.
Andrew Talansky there, 187. Nice to see he's in this group here with the yellow jersey. Just in front of him, Warren Barguil still has his clear lead in the King of the Mountains. He's been watching with interest the battle between Thomas de Gent and Roglic. 10 riders left now in this front group, 340 the gap. We must remind ourselves that Warren Barguil did fall in that crash with Marcel Kittel, and so any chance of being with the front group early on was out of the question. They're continuing over the top here, sharp left. Now we plunge down, as Paul has said, not too far. Look at the face here of Daryl Impey bringing him up to the summit. The top of the Col du Telegraph. The dizzy heights of the Alps, famous for its flora and fauna way up in the mountains here. So we'll spin off for the Col du Telegraph, and we'll head over to the Col du Galibier, the high spot of this year's Tour de France, the highest point in this part of the world as well. It's a long climb to the top, and then after that, it's a long plunge to the finish. With Dan Martin, Fabio Rigoberto Urán, or Romain Bardet all have a go at Chris Froome. Well, the beauty of the Alps here, I don't suppose the Tour de France would agree with us in the race, but it is sensational riding today. Most beautiful part of France, as we now are flying down onto the foothills of the Col du Galibier. The front group has just started the climb.
And a few allies now starting to come forward for Chris Froome. This is Daryl Impey, the South African, on the front with the yellow helmet. Then 2, 3, 4 position in the main field. That are the teammates. Those are the teammates of Chris Froome. And if you think this climb is legendary, just look at the crowd here at the bottom of the climb with still 17 kilometres, 10 miles to go to the top. Gets categorized over 17.7 kilometres, climbs up an elevation gain of 4,000 feet. Average gradient inside of 7%, but the maximum at 12.4%. And I'm sad to say, Phil, well, it's good for us, but sad for the riders, that high gradient is right up towards the summit.
Yes, it's the most famous summit. It was included the first year they put the Alps into the programme for the Tour de France, which was in 1911, by the way, the year after they introduced the Pyrenees. They had such a great race in the Pyrenees, thought, well, why not bring the Alps in as well, which they did in 1911. Now, the leaders have started the climb. Let's ask Bob Rowley. He was a brilliant climber in his day. Bob, is Competitor, the front group, going to survive?
I have a feeling that Alberto has put so much effort into his chase of the leaders that he doesn't have enough left to actually finish off this aggression. He's not looking fabulous. Bauke Mollema has been doing a lot of the work on the telegraph. He's still trying to keep them far enough away that Alberto would have a chance to leap out of that lead group. But the peloton now being led by a different team, Orica, and I don't know if Alberto is looking as strong as he did on the telegraph. Roglic on the attack now.
Yeah, absolutely right, Bob. Primoz Roglic, if he were to get any points on this climb, he would move into second place in the King of the Mountains competition. That's how he did it. No immediate reaction. Well, this is a man who started out as a very, very successful junior ski jumper. He was a world champion, had a nasty crash and started cycling. There's the climb results on the telegraph. Roglic won there, 10 points. That put him in 1 point behind Thomas Kent. And it looks as though poor old Bauke Mollema has now cracked. Now it's up to Contador to take it up, and he's gone with Roglic. And here comes Serge Pauwels.
Well, Serge Pauwels, when I was talking to the Belgian commentators this morning, they said, we're just going to put one name forward today for Belgium, and that's the name of Serge Pauwels. Well, they were obviously quite correct, because he's seen this as a move, and he's coming across the gap. Alberto Contador has big responsibility on his shoulders because of the work that was done by, first of all, the Colombian climber on their squad, Jarlinson Pantana, and then the amazing job over the majority of the Col du Telegraph by Bauke Mollema.
Now then, Bob, you just told me that Contador made too much of an effort.
Well, if you look at the face of Primoz Roglic and Alberto Contador, that might tell the tale right there. Alberto struggling to keep the wheel of Roglic, it looks like to me. I mean, Alberto's a great champion, one of the best climbers in the history of professional cycling. But Roglic been sitting on the wheels throughout the day, and he is now at 60 points compared to Warren Barguil's 117. If he gets the next HC points, that'll give him 80 points, and he moves himself within sight of the polka dot jersey, which I thought was a foregone conclusion at the start of today's stage.
It's a good point, Bob. He'll only be 37 points off the lead of Warren Barguil, and just about enough time left to win that competition. Roglic is coming into his own right now.
And Roglic is asking Alberto Contador to collaborate here, and I'd just like to throw a little bit of a complication into the King of the Mountains competition, because tomorrow at the summit of the Col d'Izoard, there are double points available for the first ride at the top of the Izoard, which makes 40 points for the winner of the stage.
What do you think, Christian? These three boys, they're looking pretty tired.
They look really tired to me, Phil, but only positive I see right there is those flags on the right-hand side. See that blue flag right there? It looks like a screaming tailwind right now, which actually I'm quite surprised with. I thought it was going to be a little bit of a headwind there. But that is definitely an advantage to those three guys on the front. But this is a long, flat section here, really until that last 7K or so, like 147 kilometers. That's where you really want to be still with the group, because you still have that long section where it's 8, 9, 10% at the top of this mountain pass. And Delancey coming off the back a little bit. It looks like Rigo's going to be pretty much by himself at the front.
Nate Brown being dropped as well there. UAE on the front. I think that's Diego Ulisi. I think he's being threatened in his position in the overall by Alberto Contador. So if I was UAE, I'd let Sky do all the work. But protecting your position in the top 10 has become a part of the final week of the Tour de France for all the riders in the top 10, which is pretty discouraging for me to watch, actually.
Well, look at the determination there. And as we continue to see riders crack, this is Cyril Gauthier. He was with that front group. He slipped right through by the look of it now. This, don't forget, Quintana also going here. He tried to go away early on with Contador. He couldn't do it, and now he's losing ground off the peloton on the Galibier.
Well, we're coming to the end of the Tour, Phil, and this is when fatigue starts to really bite in. Nairo Quintana, he's well up in the overall standing, but also slipping out there, number 88. That's Roman Kreuziger, one of the allies of Simon Yates.
It just shows you, I mean, this is Zeitz also from Astana, and he's Fabio Aru's teammate, but he's also dropped. There's Aru in the green, but he's always been able to look after himself, Fabio Aru. And I keep thinking what he said, I'm not afraid to attack the rider in yellow. How do you see this race going now, Jens? Some big names dropping out.
Yes, indeed. It looks like the race is really going to the final phase, and we should expect an attack from Romain Bardet, I guess. Out of all the other favorites, I think he is the one we have to look for. And just looking at the jersey of Daniel Martin there, he is going to be out for revenge today, trying to gain some time again and tell people, hey, don't write me off. I'm still in this race.
I'll tell you what, 30 years ago, it will be 30 years ago on Sunday, number 11 won the Tour de France on the back of Stephen Roach. And Romain Bardet is number 11. So if you believe in coincidences, that man's got it all on his side. Contador, Powells, Roglic, they're trying to sock it to the rest on the lower slopes of the Galibier. But there's others with plans as well. Well, Primož Roglic on the front here. These are the three leaders on the giant Col de Galibier. Serge Powell is yo-yoing, but he's back for the moment. And Contador is in the middle. But Roglic has really found his legs on this last big climb of the day. The fine work done by Bauke Mollema. Well, he's dropped off the front of that race now. All of these riders just scrabbling for help. And that looks as though we've got shooting off up the road there. I think it was Atapuma. As they look out now across the heights of the Alps today, the clouds are there, but thankfully no heavy storms hitting us yet. 3:23 back to this group, the yellow jersey group of Chris Froome. I wonder what he thinks at this stage of the race. He knows on this last climb they will attack him, they will test him. There's the polka dot jersey of Warren Barguil riding alongside Dan Martin there. Caruso is in this break. There is Rigo Uran. And he looks dead cool, I'll tell you. This is the man in number 11, Romain Bardet, an attacking rider if he gets a chance. And he's got a strong teammate still with him. And there is Fabio Aru, 18 seconds off this man's yellow jersey. The race is on the table, and the right man can win it today.
All of those faces looking very, very concentrated as we start to line up to this extremely long climb. I mean, we're still 12 kilometres away from the top of the climb, and that's around about 7 miles of racing, and that 12 kilometres is going to take them pretty close to 35 minutes. The profile of the climber, as you can see, the average is around about 7% the gradient, but up towards the top, right towards the right hand side, that's when it really kicks up to the 9 and 10% gradient. And that's where I think the moves are likely to come to take advantage of the fast descent, which is around about 17 miles downhill into the finishing line here of Serre Chevalier.
Riders just cracking all of the time now. The long, lonely slopes of the Col de Galibier. This looks like it's Navarro here.
Yeah, he was one of the animators a little earlier on in the day when we went up the Col de la Croix de Fer.
There's the flag of Australia waving. Well, they have a new leader in the green jersey competition to cheer tonight. Michael Matthews, the abandoned earlier on today following a crash of Marcel Kittel. Michael Matthews pushing him all the way to Paris, suddenly finds himself pulling on the green points jersey tonight. So 13 seconds to two riders trying to reach these three, then another two riders, then 14. Now we are going to take a 1 minute breakaway, so start your watches when we leave here, and when we come back we'll be commercial free to the end of the day. Welcome back. We're high in the Alps today, stage 17, 114 miles. We are on now the giant Col de Galibier, and we still have around 6.5 miles to climb. The Lululemon weather conditions, 69 degrees, 9 miles an hour. The wind now changing to the northeast and being pretty helpful at the moment on this climb. Serge Powell now, Alberto Contador, Primož Roglic, and we've just been joined by two more.
Darwin Atapuma, the Colombian rider on UAE, have bridged the gap to make this five-man leading group. In there as well, just getting onto the back, is Matthias Frank, a rider who is a teammate of Romain Bardet and could be quite critical later on if the Frenchman Romain Bardet is able to go on the attack. But Serge Powell, he is actually digging a little bit deep. Remember last year on that crazy stage up to the summit of the Mont Ventoux, where Chris Froome eventually ended up running alongside the service vehicle, waiting to get a new bicycle. Well, it was that man there in first position, Serge Powell, who finished second behind Thomas Kent.
He's a great bike rider, Serge Powell. He rides for Dimension Data, who've tried almost every day to win a stage. They've had so much bad luck. They lost Mark Cavendish with a broken shoulder in that